You'll be in your final. Go to track, go to new, go to stereo, master faders, the third one down. Create a master fader. So now that gets you all on there. Okay. So there's our master fader. Now go to inserts on the master fader. You're going to add a reverb to it. Just do the air reverb. And we're going to be subtle with this one. So I'm going to make the reverb time a little less. What this basically does is this puts all 7 tracks that are all kind of separate. Imagine it's like if you had 7 musicians and you put them all in one room together, and that room had a little slight echo in it, which is the reverb, and now their instruments are going to basically create all this sound, and the sound waves are going to be gelling together, and they're going to be echoing in a room, and it just makes it sound a little more like music in a real room with the band. So here's just a slight amount of verb. You can, I have a delay on that pad. You can tell how much reverb's on, remember, by stopping it. So if I put it like a super insane amount, just so you can see it's not subtle. There's the reverb. If I stop it, you'll hear an echo after. Not the instruments, but just that. It's kind of going on after. You can kind of hear it echoing still. Actually. There it is. That's not subtle at all. So there's our mix. Check it out now. Need the tail. So you can hear it in there, right? You can hear the saturation. Huh? Well, we want a little bit of it. A little bit of it. My way that I test it is I sort of, like I'll turn the time. It's at 3 seconds, 2 seconds. I might put it at kind of like 1.5 seconds. And that's my way that I test it is I push stop. And if it sort of just seems like it's like, I'm like, okay, that's too much. I might want to just stop it and have it kind of, just a little bit of echo. So everything's kind of alive in one room. And it's all hitting that one reverb. So everything is, it's basically like puts it all together. It's kind of sealing it all together. Maybe I'll do a little more. Like I'll bypass it. Should be somewhat subtle. Turn it back on. So you want to have the mix maybe at like 10%, maybe even 5%. And I've got the time at like 1 second, something like that, 1.5 seconds. And that just adds a little bit of warmth. Like I said, it just puts it into a room the same size. There's a lot more to do you can do on this master fader. You could bump it up a tiny bit. Don't get too much into bumping it up. 1 dB, maybe 2 dB. I put this on my kick drum. Bass drum's kind of wimpy on that patch, but I'm going to leave it alone. Okay, so that's basically the deal. So we put a master fader on, and we've got that little reverb on, just a subtle amount of reverb, just enough to kind of warm things up a little. So now we're going to bounce it. So basically, go into your file menu, and you're going to see all the, there's bounce. There's also import and export, but we're going to use bounce today. You want to bounce to disk. Bounce to disk. So the file menu to disk, and you're going to hit that, and you're going to want to, so here's all these things, right? So the output is, should be 1 and 2, just like it is. Now you're going to get a WAV file. Here's all these different file types. Wave is pretty high definition. It's a large file. AIFF is also a large high definition file. MP3 is what we all know. That's pretty a small compressed file that we can easily stream and download. So let's do this. Let's have a wave, and then let's just click Add MP3 so you get both. You get your high definition one. You're going to have two files you're bouncing. Then go to Format. If you bounce it with multiple mono, what's going to happen is you will have one track of yours that'll say L left and the other track that'll say R right. So you don't want that. You want them to join together into one stereo track. So that's interleaved. So you want to hit interleaved. And then leave everything else the same, 24-bit, 44.1. We don't want to add it to iTunes library. You could if you really, once you really get in a flow and you're building something up, you can set all those automation things. I'm going to leave it in the bounce. There's a bounced folder. So we got wave, we checked add MP3, and we went to interleaved. And we left everything else the same. And I'm going to hit bounce and see what it does. So I'll leave all these alone. Encoding speed the fastest. Constant bit rate. Looks like it's got the highest one, so that's like the highest definition. You could encode it. It's a little lower quality when you do it faster. If you let it bounce slower, it'll be a little higher quality. For our purposes, I'm not going to touch anything right here, right now. If you want to set up like the metadata, you can type in your name and stuff so that anybody who downloads the track, your name will be attached to it. Genre, I don't know, acid. Track 1, year 20. You don't have to pick any of that stuff. So I'll hit OK, and then we'll see what it does. Sometimes there's little glitches. I don't quite have the bouncing in Pro Tools super dialed in. There's some mysterious things. Okay, so there's that. Now I'll minimize everything in here. In theory, I have a feeling it's going to be longer. So there's our MP3. It's all bounced out. It sounds a little bit different. Okay. So now the only thing with this one is, let's see. Just kind of looking here. Is this is something that's a little bit mysterious to me. The track is not that long. It's adding some time on the end of it for some reason. Actually, I meant to clean up that ending. But, so I'd say maybe for now, don't worry about it. Sometimes you can get, I've noticed there's a way to like trim it down. So look at the wave file. It bounced the correct amount. These are some mysterious, yes. Oh yeah, go ahead. Some mysterious things that I'm not quite sure of, but check it out. You can hit that little trim thing and you can trim it if you want. So I might trim off that last little bit and then hit done. New clip. Oops, actually. Let's hit replace, yeah. So there's a way to trim the wave files. That's something I'm not super sure about why it does that way. Let me do one more thing here for you guys. So that's the basic project right there. Here's one thing you can do if you want. I actually meant to do this on mine. So there's my master fader, right? It's got volume. I'm going to go in, and at the end of my piece, I actually meant to have that after this breakdown with the little drums and stuff. I meant to actually have that just do a long studio fade. So I'm going to fade it all the way down. So it's going to be a long kind of trippy ending with the fade out. And then, okay, so there's that little thing there. I'll bounce it again just for good measure. Bounce disk. All my settings were kind of saved there. I'll bounce it again. It's going a little quicker. Know exactly what's up. Okay. So there we are. Now let's check this. I'm curious. It's fading out. Hear that? None of that stupid garbage on the end. I did a volume fade, but I did it only on the master fader, though, so I didn't have to do it on every track. So in this one, actually worked. All the weird stuff in there, a nice little slow fade. And that one actually, see, that one did well. You can see the waveform, it pretty much didn't, there's not much extra on there. And that's just something I don't know why it adds that time to the MP3, honestly. What I do is later, if I go in and maybe just trim it with a different program, when we get into mastering, that's super easy to do. But so that's basically the project. Master fader, adding a little subtle reverb and bouncing it to disc. And then hopefully then we can work it to where we can then upload your MP3s, hopefully to Dropbox or to the Google Drive, or email them to me. If they're under 25 megabytes, you can email them to me. And then we can have a day. When we're all done, we can listen to them all. Okay. So